Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Friday the 31st of July 2020. I had to think about that one. I'm so glad that you're joining me today to talk about some knitting, some yarn. I just once again wanted to relatively quickly check in and talk about some of the things that I've been working on. And yeah, so we'll have some finished objects, some works in progress, and possibly, very likely, some chatter towards the end. So if you're watching for the very first time, then a huge welcome to you. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much for coming back and possibly being a regular viewer of this podcast. In terms of show notes, I can sadly still not really provide a solution. I do and used to have all of my project pages on Ravelry, which I kept very detailed, and you could find all the information there. But the issues with Ravelry not being accessible are not really being resolved, and I do want to find a new solution. I thought about possibly creating like a WordPress type blog and just archiving my projects on there as well, but really I just haven't had the time, and baby is coming in a few weeks, so unfortunately I'm not sure if I'm going to sort that out anytime soon. So if you are able to use Ravelry and you want to use it, I will provide the link down below, and if you are not able to use it, do get in touch and I will try to again reply to comments. Again, things may change very soon, so again, I can't really make any huge promises, but I try to give you the information that you need, and I hope that you guys will understand. So let's get started with some finished objects. So maybe I should just mention that, as you probably have noticed, I am once again recording in a different space. This is actually our current bed and living room. So I am literally just sat on our bed. The lighting seems to be quite good, so that's a good thing. But again, I am kind of experimenting with settings and all of that again. So if it's not perfect, once again, sorry about that. So for my finished object, I have finished my mohair sweater, which is so exciting, and I'm not going to put it on because A, it doesn't really fit over my very pregnant bump right now, and B, it is crazy warm here in Germany. I'm already kind of suffering while not wearing a whole lot. So there's just no point in me putting this on. But this is my finished garment. It is a version of the flax sweater by Tin Can Knits, which I believe is a free pattern. I have spoken many times about my love for Tin Can Knits patterns, and I think it's written for something like a worsted weight yarn. But what I did is I used a mohair yarn and a lace weight, I think wool yarn, held them together, got gauge, and just made this very loose drapey sweater, which is also quite oversized. So I purposely made it oversized, and it is very flowy. I really like it. Incidentally, it goes very well with the color that I'm wearing, so I'm apparently in a pink mood at the moment. I haven't really even tried this on once I finished this, but I think it turned out pretty well. I'm pretty sure it's going to fit no matter how my body is exactly shaped after birth, because again, it is quite oversized. I also made it a bit longer than I originally intended. I used a commercial mohair yarn for this, which is by Hansa Farm, previously called Fair Alpaca. I think they might be called Fair Wool. Fair Wool, is that true? They have a different name in the UK. I've talked about this before, but it's a commercial mohair lace yarn, or mohair kid silk, I think, that you can buy sort of in larger quantities, which is why they make it relatively affordable. And I held it together with some yarn by BC Garn, which is a Danish company. Actually, both the companies are, I think, certified sort of organic yarn and wool sort of producers, which is good. And it is BC Garn's Semilla Extra Fino, which again is a lace weight yarn, and they just went really well together. I had a cone of it, which was I think 250 grams, and I still have so much left over, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the rest, but I'm really happy with this. It is done. I made some modifications, so I didn't do the garter on the top of the shoulders. I think made the body a little bit wider. So while I stopped increasing for the sleeves, I kept increasing a little bit more for the body. I did my own sleeve decreases. I did 3/4 length sleeves, which I think goes quite well with this garment. And yeah, this is it. So that is my one finished object for this week. So let's talk about some works in progress. One pair of socks that I'm not going to talk about today, or not really going to show you today, are my Aramis socks. They are the textured socks that I showed you last week, and I'm knitting them 2 at a time. I've made maybe like not even an inch of progress, so they basically look the same, and hence there is no real point in showing those to you. But I have made some progress on my commercial socks. So you may remember this sock. I think I had just finished it last time I talked to you, but I still had to do the Kitchener stitch, so I finished the first sock now. And in terms of the second sock, I'm kind of in an awkward place, but I'm currently just halfway through the heel of the second sock. So I am doing a fish lips kiss heel, in case you're wondering. I love the fish lips kiss heel. I do it all the time. And these are going to be socks for Kai, so I'm doing 68 stitches over a 2.25 millimeter needle, which is a US size 1. And this is the yarn that I'm using for it. It is Regia Perfect Partner Look. So I think they have sort of matching stripy colorways. So another colorway that goes with this would have the main color as the green, and then gray cuffs and so on. And I think it's quite fun. So this is colorway number 7130. And I feel like I have something in my throat, which I don't. Maybe some mohair. So yeah, basically it's the perfect principle of like knitting these socks, which is that you start from the inside and then you just kind of keep knitting, and this whole pattern appears. I talked about last week how I generally love Regia, and for this one I was a little bit disappointed because the stripes on the picture looked a lot more defined than they do look here. But Kai really likes these socks, and they're fun and they're affordable, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with them, and I would really like to maybe have these finished within the next couple of days. We'll see how it goes. But this is definitely very good sort of TV knitting or knitting when we hang out with my sisters, with my family. So I am actually always kind of keeping one sock project downstairs. So anytime like we hang around more than I thought we would, I don't need to go anywhere to get my knitting. I just have some knitting ready to go, and I will just knit a couple of rows. So yeah, those are my perfect socks, or Kai's perfect socks, I should say. And then, because what else would I do when I'm expecting our baby in a few weeks? I cast on 2 sweaters. So the first sweater that I cast on, actually, I feel like it was quite a sensible cast on because I promised my sister this for a very long time. So those of you who have been watching for maybe 1 or 2 years will know that for Christmas, I think 2018, I knit sweaters for both of my sisters, and I had started quite early, so I think I started the first sweater in August of 2018 and then kind of gave myself time to finish those. And I knit both of them the Pavement sweater by Vera Välimäki, which by now I've knit a total of 4 times. Do I still have any of them? No. So what happens is one sister still has one. I made 2 for myself, but the first one was too small, so I gave that away, and the second one I felted. And then my sister, who loved her sweater, she loved it so much, and I really know how much she was so precious about it, and she even didn't take it with her when she was traveling because she was so worried about ruining it. And she came home and over Christmas and she felted it. And she felt so bad. I think she didn't tell me for a while. So I naturally told her that I would knit her another sweater, and she kind of really wanted the exact same thing because she just really liked that sweater. So for a while I was trying to convince her to maybe at least let me knit her a different pattern, because do I really need to knit the Pavement for a 5th time? But she really wants it, and I actually really like the pattern. So in the end, I got the yarn, I think in the beginning of the year, And it had been kind of on my brain, but I didn't feel like knitting it. So I took the yarn with me when I knew that we were going to be living here for a couple of weeks. And long story short, I finally cast on. So this is pavement sweater number 5. It's a top-down sweater. I really like the construction actually. And while on me, I always thought the shoulders were a little bit too tight. My sisters are a little bit smaller than me, so on them it actually looks really good. So what I've done is I've done like the short rows and the garter stitch, and I have finished the increases, which are quite interesting. And so now I have just separated for the sleeves. I'm using a very small cable, so you can't really see much. But I think now I just need to knit stockinette for like the longest amount of time, and it'll be very, very mindless. As with most of my other pavements, I think I'm just going to repeat the modifications that I usually do. So I'm going to do a split hem rather than a high-low hem. Or like, I think the original sweater has sort of like short row shaping on the bottom. And what I will do is I will just do garter stitch bands and possibly make the back one longer than the front. And besides that, she basically wants the same fit as the last one, so she wants relatively tight sleeves, a wider body, a bit of a cropped fit. So this should go quite fast. The yarn that I'm using is actually the same yarn that I used for both of my sister's previous pavement sweaters, which is again by Hansa Farm actually. I'm not sure why they're popping up so much today. I am not sponsored, by the way. And they are the company that don't put their name on the logo, on the ball band. I'm not sure why. So this just says Baby Merino 175 Superwash. So this is their sport weight version. It's again Oeko-Tex sort of certified yarn. And again, you buy it in relatively large quantities. So I think I bought 300 grams or 6 balls of this at a time. And that way they managed to kind of keep it affordable, which I think is a good thing. This is actually a different color than the first one in Knit Earth. They had 2 shades of blue, and I was like, maybe just choose a different shade of blue so it's a little bit different for me to knit. And the yarn arrived, and funnily enough, it looks exactly like the other shade of blue that I used 2 years ago. So it's kind of hilarious. Like, I literally put them next to each other because I had some leftovers, and I cannot even see the difference. But it doesn't matter. It's a really pretty color. I like the yarn. It is super wash. It goes very quickly. Don't ask me how she felt it. I know she will never do it again. So I'm working another pavement sweater. I think I'm doing the second size. I didn't gauge swatch, which is the story of my life. And I'm the one who always goes on about gauge, so I definitely know the importance of it. But it turns out that apparently my gauge hasn't changed much since 2 years ago, because I'm using the same needles as I did 2 years ago. And I just started and decided that I will rather rip out and start again if it's completely off than knit a gauge swatch. And it turns out, after knitting a bit and measuring it, it should be fine. So that is one sweater project, which again, this is super mindless now. I can just knit on this while having conversations, while watching TV. And it isn't super slow because the yarn is sport weight. It's on quite a loose gauge, and yeah, so that is one sweater. And then I was talking to a knitty friend of mine, and I just really got the urge to cast on some Colorwork. And part of it is the reason that currently Kai and I, we are watching the series The Americans, which is on Netflix, and it's an older series about like KGB spies in America, and we absolutely love it. I mean, honestly, it's not for the faint of heart, at least I think so. It's not something I would watch with kids, but especially the first season I think is quite good. And it plays, I think, in the early 80s with some flashbacks, and while it doesn't have a lot of knitwear, somehow the knitwear that they did have in that series kind of inspired me. And so I decided I need to cast on a Colorwork garment. Sorry, I'm out of breath, which is a constant right now. There's just nothing I can do. I'm all about the tangents today, apparently. So I decided I want to cast on a garment, and as you probably know, we just moved here temporarily. So I have some of my yarn with me, but not a whole ton of it. So I kind of went searching for any yarn that I could do color work with, and it turns out I had sort of one sweater quantity of color work appropriate yarn with me. And that is some Holz Super Soft. So this is Holzgarn, another Danish brand. I'm sure you've heard of it before if you're kind of into non-superwash yarn. It's very, very affordable. It's a very thin yarn. You can knit it to a lot of different gauges. It's 100% wool, 287 meters per 50 grams. And you can definitely tell that this is in the bag where the mohair used to live because it's kind of fluffy. So this is the shade Plum. And I have something like, I think, 4 cakes of this, which is enough for a sweater for me. And then, excuse the crinkling, I also have this shade set. So it came with 5 sort of gradient minis of the same yarn. It's called Nuancepakke number 4. I'm sure this is not how you pronounce it, but I thought it kind of goes together. So why not use this to do some color work and kind of gradiate these colors throughout the color work. So what I'm doing is a sweater by a designer that I recently found out about, I think through Stephen and Penelope. So I think she was one of their featured designers. And the designer is Julia Wilkins. And this is her Richter sweater. So named after the German person Richter, who I think did the glasswork on the Cologne Dome, if I'm not completely wrong. Sorry if I am. Anyways, it's a beautiful colorwork sweater. It's kind of a simple construction. It's exactly what I wanted. So she does it with like a main color and one contrast color, and I'm just going to use a couple of different colors for the yoke, which I think is going to look quite pretty. I don't think I'm going to use all of these. I might just use like the lightest 3 of those. So I think there's 6 sections of color work. I may be wrong, but I used the white or cream for the first 2, and I'm planning to use this for the second 2 and so on. But I need to measure if I have enough yarn, so I need to weigh this little thing and figure out if I can do the next bit of color work with this as well. But I think it's going to give a really nice effect, and I'm just having so much fun with this. So first of all, I love the plum color. It's one of my favorite colors of Holst. I just love it so much, and actually one time a while ago, I ordered quite a few different shades of like purple and reddish purple and burgundies and stuff to figure out which one I like best, and I think plum is my favorite. It's just such a beautiful color. I'm not sure how well it is showing up, but I love it. And again, I think this combination works really well. I actually knit an entire sweater in this colorway, which, oh my god, I should know what this is called. But I knit a colorwork sweater in this a while ago, and I wear it all the time. So yeah, I am very excited about this. Again, is it a smart idea to cast on a fingering weight colorwork project just before birth? Probably not. But I don't care. I mean, maybe I'll get through the color work and then the rest of it will be super mindless anyways, and if not, who cares? I'm just really having fun, and I'm kind of breezing through these color work repeats. They're very fun, and I think once I block this thing, they will look very pretty as well. So yeah, that's what I've been doing instead of finishing my sister's sweater in these last couple of days. Yeah, I think the pattern is written for a sport weight, but it has a 24 stitch gauge, so I think it should work with my Holzgarn, which again can be knit to a lot of different gauges, and I do sometimes like these very light sweaters, and once I wash this, the yarn will kind of full up a little bit, so it won't be like holey or anything. It'll just be a very nice light sweater, which should work really well. Again, did I do a gauge swatch? No. But I've knit with this yarn quite a lot. I have been swatching throughout knitting this. Again, I'd rather rip out than do a swatch. So I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, and it seems to be working out quite well. So here we are. So those are the 2 garments that I've been knitting. So I have 2 garments, 2 pairs of socks, and some blankets on the needles. And yeah, I'm just trying to knit as much as I possibly can while I still can, and I realize I can knit with a baby, but who knows what will happen then. So I'm just trying to enjoy this time, and so far it's working out really well, except for the fact that it is just crazy hot. And whatever the temperature seems to be, I just have like 10 degrees more because I'm just constantly overheating. So that's kind of slowing down my knitting a little bit, but not too much. Alright, so if you're only here for the knitting, which I 100% respect and understand, then I think this is it for today. I'm just going to be chatting about what's been going on. So I will hopefully see you again very soon. Who knows? I'm not making any promises, but thank you so much for watching. And if you do want to stick around, yeah, you're welcome to. So what has been happening? First of all, I should probably mention that I am doing very well. Even though I'm out of breath, it is in no way COVID related. It's very much pregnancy related. I am finally, and scarily enough, in the last stages of my pregnancy. So it's a few more weeks to go. I am purposely not stating my due date on social media or the podcast, which I'm sure you will understand. So thank you for that in advance. But yeah, things are kind of getting serious. So we have been nesting and getting ready. And first of all, I think I'm quite lucky that I'm doing pretty well. And the only thing that I'm not doing anymore is sleeping. So I just cannot get comfortable, and it's a bit of a struggle, but during the day I'm completely fine. I don't have any backaches throughout the day. So I think all in all, I am quite lucky in that this pregnancy has been relatively easy. So yeah, all of that is going very, very well. Of course, we are very closely watching what is happening in terms of COVID-19, because things here in Germany are, or definitely were, going very, very well, which of course is a big factor when it comes to my planned hospital stay and all of that. Now, we kind of don't know where things are going, but I'm just crossing my fingers that things continue to stay relatively calm here, which would be very beneficial. So we'll see how that goes. And besides that, we've been, like I said, getting ready. So we were really lucky in the way that we got a lot of baby things as gifts, or mostly used things, because again, we know that we will be moving. So I just have no intention of like buying a lot of stuff and just having a lot of stuff. And I apparently am very minimalist when it comes to these things at the moment. But yeah, so we've been like meeting friends and picking up like the pram and the baby bed, and everything is kind of set up now. I'm actually looking at some things while I'm sitting here. So it feels like we are kind of ready as you can be, I guess, which is a good thing. Besides that, I think we've settled in quite well. So I've been here for about 3 weeks now. Kai has been here for 2 weeks. And we've definitely found a good routine, which is very relieving. Not that I was hugely worried, but you never know what will happen. But everything is going quite well, both with like where we're living and like everything surrounding it. And we're just enjoying the time. We're trying to enjoy as much time as we can. Like I said, I'm knitting a lot, and my dad, thank goodness, he fixed my ball winder, because that kept on unscrewing itself while I was winding. So I think that should be good now. So I actually did a bit of a cleanup this morning, but the only thing that is left to do is to find a place to set up the ball winder. Still not sure how to do that. Still not sure where to find the space, but I will figure it out, and then I should be set up to wind yarn and do all of that as well. I'm thinking about winding some yarn and just having like projects ready to knit. So then once I am either not feeling as well anymore or baby is here, I can just grab knitting rather than having to like set up things and gather things and wind yarn. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. I haven't really done anything about it, but that could be something that I try next week. Besides that, I think I planned a bit too much in the first 2 weeks that we were here, and now I'm just definitely taking it a lot slower, which is good. Again, it's also been very, very hot here. I think we're supposed to have 34 degrees tomorrow, which is not going to be fun. But my parents, they actually we set up a little tiny paddling pool outside. So that is freezing. We tried that yesterday. Definitely the coldest bath that I have ever taken, but it is very fun, and of course it's quite good in this heat because we're in Germany, and in Germany you don't have air conditioning and it just gets very hot. So yeah, that's basically what's been happening, as well as like meeting some friends and all of those things, because luckily where we are now is quite close to where I actually went to uni. So I still have some very good old friends here, and it's nice to see them again. And yeah, just enjoying the time. So I feel like the more I talk, the more I get out of breath. So I think it's time for me to wrap this up and edit this and then get back to my knitting. Yeah, basically just sitting in my knitting cave. So thank you so much again for watching. I hope this wasn't too disjointed. And as long as I can, I will try to come back maybe once a week. If you do want to keep up to date with what I'm doing, the best place to do so is probably through Instagram. So no pressure at all. It's just if you're wondering where I am and I possibly stop posting or whatever, the best place to check back with is Instagram, where you can find me as The Happy Knitting Podcast. Again, I'm not super active on there, and I don't necessarily like the Instagram messaging thing, but if there is something that I want to communicate, it will probably happen here, because especially once baby is here, I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to do any sort of YouTube videos. I think there are different things that need to be prioritized then. But for all of that, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you very soon. Until then, please stay safe, stay healthy, have some fun with your knitting, and I will see you very soon. Bye!